I don't care if Joe Rogan's feelings are hurt. I don't care if I never get invited on his show. It does not matter. I'm a warrior. I'm American. You got to man up, right? Now's the time for men. We're facing men who will chop your head off and kick it down the road like a soccer ball. I'm sorry I talk like a war correspondent because I do a lot of war.
Welcome into the blockchain basement on Rumble, the blockchain black site. We have a very, very special guest today joining us from Panama. One of the most important voices in freedom and knowing what is actually going on the ground around the world. We have Michael Yon joining us from the Panama Canal. You might just actually get a glimpse of a ship moving behind his head actively. He is out there paying attention to some pretty important things that are happening to America, but also most of the Western world with an unprecedented movement and invasion into our country and the homeland. Michael, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. It looked like we had made, I came across a post that you had put up, a little bit of time ago. It was referencing the Coinbase. We have a Coinbase debacle. It seems that Coinbase has locked you out of your accounts. Now, if you can, just give me a brief overscope of what you experienced so far. What happened from Coinbase? What did they tell you? Why did this happen?
Okay, I'll tell you a quick history of how I got here.
Yeah.
I am a war correspondent. And so for the last 20 years or so, I've worked almost all on donations, right? So all of my donors are quite small. So nobody owns me, right? Often if I publish something, people get angry and say, well, I'll never support you again,
right? Which
is sad. But at the same time, it never knocks me out. There's nobody that can call me up and say, well, you need to publish this or don't publish that. Or you're basically, your lights are going to go out. There's nobody, even the top 50 or 100 people couldn't do that to me, right? So what I do is I take a lot of small donations, right? And so over time, as you can imagine, these things have cropped up. I've been doing this for about 20 years. These things cropped up like digital currency, Bitcoin and stuff. Of course, I'm busy with wars and that sort of thing. And so, there's quite a few donors that said, hey, we'll donate, Bitcoin, but you need to set this thing up.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, what's this? And okay, let's set it up. And I was recommended that I use Coinbase, and so I used Coinbase, and now I know, and a lot of people know, of course, you shouldn't be on these platforms. But at the time, again, it's not a major part of my funding or that sort of thing. But over time, it did add up, and so a significant amount of fund. But keep in mind, I'm not a Bitcoin trader, so I'm not tracking on all the nuance of this, that, and the private wallets and all that, which I am now a little bit, right, more. But in the meantime, I still had a little bit in Coinbase, and I wanted to take it out. When I went to take it out, because I realized the danger. When I went to take it out, Coinbase will not relinquish it, right? They locked my account, right? And so, and they're like, they keep asking for various information, like. Of course, I hit the World Economic Forum constantly, and as you know, World Economic Forum and Coinbase, I wake up in the morning and I hit World Economic Forum, and before I go to bed, I hit World Economic Forum or Chinese Communist Party, right? Yes. So that's basically what I do, right? So basically, I'm in the belly of the beast, and Coinbase is obviously mixed in there with World Economic Forum, right? Yeah. And so. We know what they did a little bit anyway with the trucker rally in Canada. They locked people out of their accounts. You mentioned before, and I've seen some of that in the news as well. And the bottom line is, for whatever reasons, they've locked me out of my account, and it's been months and months. They keep asking for more information, like, okay, you need a copy of you and your passport. You need a copy of you and your passport and a letter saying, and then they ask, what are you going to do with the funding? Okay, now we need a copy of your there's many different obstacles, and it's like they know what they're doing. Like you're coming through a system of first of all, in the beginning, the passport doesn't even work. Like you'll see people complaining online, hey, Coinbase is asking for my passport, but it won't accept passport. The button doesn't work. So after you do the pigeon on the button thing for a long time, and all these different restart the computer and all this stuff, it's just all these little obstacles. They probably learned, through time how to set obstacles on the ground, and now months drag out. So then they, you know what I mean? It's like a military thing. Just slow them down, wear them out, right? and then finally fight them, right? But so at the end of the day, they start asking for more stuff. Finally, they ask for, what are you going to do with the funding? And I'm like, well, first of all, that's none of your business.
Right.
But I am a war correspondent with millions of readers, and I am a writer and I'm an author. You know what I mean? And so we'll fight this on a different venue. You know what I mean? It's not going to be me and you over email.
Right.
You know what I mean?
100%.
You know, I've asked numerous times to talk with somebody. They will never give me a phone number. And I'm like, okay, we'll just take it out to the parking lot, which is what we're doing now, right?
Yes.
And so, and I literally reach millions of people per week, directly or indirectly. If they want to fight like that, that's what we'll do, right? And so, and I've done this before. I've done it with Shock Magazine, who stole some of my work years ago, and they ended up bankrupt. So if you look up my name and Shock Magazine, you'll see they went bankrupt. And it was all, and you'll see many articles about how, it was devastating, Shock Magazine. And all I did is what we're doing now. I just told the story, and people stopped using them, and it cost them millions of dollars, and they went bankrupt.
Yep.
And it was fair play, because all I did was tell a truthful story. They stole my work. They put it, and then they made it sound like I was their photographer, and I was not. I was just, I never knew who they were until I bankrupted them.
It's the point where the gloves have to come off. You know what I mean? And this is,
Speak to the truth. Don't do any no defamatory statements, nothing malicious. It's just what happened. They locked me out of my account, just as they did to many truckers in Canada. And now they won't. They know who I am. Now they're asking for utilities bills, like electric bills or water bills or something. I'm like, you don't need any of that. What do you want to know where I live so you can come and kill me now? I mean,
they want everything.
You're globalist, man. You freaking kill people all the time. I'm not saying Coinbase does this, but we know a lot of globalists. I want to be crystal clear. I'm not saying Coinbase does this, but now you'll have you want all of my data for everything that, I take precautions on where I sleep at night. You can see where I'm at now. It's pretty simple to figure out. But often, I am in dangerous environments. Who am I going to tell? A bunch of woke people at Coinbase? Exactly. There's probably a direct cable to Beijing. I have no idea. 100%. Why do you need all this information about my utility bill and stuff? You know who I am. You have my money. Unlock it. Otherwise, and I've told them this over and over and over, keeping my money in your pocket when it's supposed to be in my pocket, that's called theft, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? You know who I am. There's no question about my identity. If there was before, there's not now, right?
Right.
And I've already done a few interviews. They know who I am. They just won't relinquish them. The funny thing is at the end of the day, for the amount of money that they've stolen, and by the way, when I said Hachette Philippachi Media, which is they own Shock Magazine. When I say that their magazine stole my property, they threatened to sue me for defamation. I was like, hello. And my attorney said, whatever you do, don't say again that they stole your property. I'm like, well, the bottom line is they stole my property. So then I started doing a lot of, and they were threatening to sue me. Listen, this is the biggest magazine conglomerate in the world. I'm used to fighting Goliaths like this. I fought the U.S. Army and won on an IP, intellectual property case. I fought ABC, long CBS. It is a long and distinguished list of big boys, right?
Yes.
And I won every single case. I can't even remember all the fights we had. And it's like, it's like my war experience. I can't even remember all the firefights I've been in. I am not afraid to fight Coinbase. In fact, I wake up in the morning going, good, I get to fight Goliath. Right. And I get to tell millions of people that Goliath is stealing their money. They'll threaten, or they may even sue me for defamation. Of course, suing me for defamation when I did not commit defamation is defamatory. You know what I mean? So you get locked into this mud pile. And the thing is I'm wrestling with pigs, but it's a big pig, and I'm just a little. So so who ends up winning in the end? The big person who else are they doing this? One of the things I found when you get into these fights, and this is very interesting. I have another friend that's involved in a very serious defamation case right now. It hasn't broken yet, but we were talking about it a few days ago when I was in Texas. Yeah, two of my friends were just defamed by a major magazine that you know. And so we were discussing it. They are going to sue him, and I'm like, wow, I've been in these sorts of cases before. You can literally bankrupt them. And I started telling them how to do it. Like, one is they have a large attack surface. Somebody inside their camp will always leak. All the big fights that I've had, somebody leaked. Somebody gives you the documents. Somebody gives you the private stuff that they shouldn't have given you, and you don't ask for it. It just pops up, and because there's always somebody in their office that's upset and sees them doing it to other people, and they don't like it, or for whatever reason that they leak it. And every single big fight I've had, somebody always leaked. Another thing that happens is many of the enemies that they've created over time, they come out of the woodwork, and they also provide information, and sometimes they provide funding for the fights. And so this new defamation lawsuit, a couple of my friends will be involved in soon. And I've told them, I've taught them some of the tactics that I've learned over the years fighting these things. Is first, there's the attack surface of the people who have done you wrong. And then there's the enemy base that they've created, which can be actually brought as a force, as a fighting force.
Yes.
And it's because they start sharing everything, because they're like, I'm still angry at them for something that happened 10 years ago. Hey, I'll help you with the lawsuit. I happen to be a lawyer. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You in other words, the idea that David and Goliath, it's not the way I've ever fought. I've fought it more of the special forces way. Just sort of the ideas I learned when I was a Green Beret, a young Green Beret, is if you're going to fight a train, are you going to stand on the train track and punch it in the light? No, you die, right? You don't fight them where it suits them at the time of their choosing. You fight them in ways like this right now. You tell millions of their customer base what they're doing and let them settle it with their customer base. Because Coinbase, you are stealing. You've got my money. You won't release it. That's called theft.
Right. It's, there's so much to unpack with the stuff you're going through right now. And, given your focus on bringing the truth to light, this story sticks out to me as another prime example of using financial mechanisms to impose controls on people that are out here fighting the good fight. You're one of the most important voices for, freedom and the truth in our current day and age, where we get so much whitewash media. We don't get the actual details of what's happening on the ground. Something about this story really sticks out to me is nefarious because of your focus that you do have. And something else that you said really reminds me of, essentially, the slow roll, the death by 1,000 cuts that these controls do have on people. Those convoy addresses that were blocked, under the Emergency Act in Canada years later. This just broke January 23rd, that the federal court has decided that the economic measures taken in Canada were unconstitutional, too broad and harsh to be justified. But the damage is already done. Those people were locked out of their accounts right when the market was getting ready to tank. They had to hold their funds all the way into the tanking market. And it's just this nefarious back-end control that everyone's like, kind of just brushes off as no big deal. But this is the framework and the groundwork for the end game of control, which is the development of CBDCs and the ability to lock down people like you or me in live time on our purchasing power across the spectrum, not just in crypto, but in day-to-day cash transfers. If we're in the United States particularly, or around the world in different locations that use CBDCs, these systems are being built with mechanisms to basically mute you if you are deemed unfit. If you're buying less than desirable goods. As you mentioned, the World Economic Forum has a strong focus on not allowing less than desirable goods. They're referring to the Second Amendment tools that we can purchase freely as our constitutional right here in the United States. They're laying
it'll be beef. Right?
Exactly. And it's just, we've seen I've said it, that you give them an inch, they take 1,000 miles, not just a mile at this point. And I do share your concern that, we might be so far down the road that it might be hard to save this. I saw this tweet that you had posted and pinned on your account, talking about, now the mainstream sources like Joe Rogan get in there, but you've been saying it for years, and this is the super uncomfortable conversation to talk about our, internal invasion happening here in the United States. You've been down there at the Darien Gap paying close attention to this, but now that it's, kind of mainstream, it almost feels like it's too late. We already have, over 20 million, that have crossed over the past few years. And that number is just arbitrary. I feel like there's no way to really tell at this point because it's been so wide open, and the push has been happening for so long. But this monetary control and the CBDC build out, the KYC build out, it's all happening in live time. Like, just this week, Michael, we had another big story break out of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom was the last year, everyone was so excited that they were so close to crypto regulation, and it was going to be the way to get accepted into crypto, get crypto mass adoption. Everyone wants this big money sign in crypto mass adoption, but they forget about the custody part. Controlling your own money was why Bitcoin was invented in the beginning. It was invented because we were in the midst of a housing collapse, a housing crisis in the United States. Banks were going insolvent. People saw these intrinsic sicknesses within the modern monetary theory system that is still in place, and they wanted an escape route, somewhere that they could control their own value, and that is continually stripped away. It just I'll bring up this tab from Kraken reportedly implementing new KYC measures for users on their self-custody wallets.
KYC measures?
Yes, those are know your customer measures, right? Okay. Know your customer measures. And this is know everything about them. It's going to be logging your biometric data. It's going to be logging the different, when you give up your KYC, you give everything to an exchange. So, obviously Coinbase, it's one of the few avenues that we in America have left to access crypto products. We have the SEC. Over the past few years, it's been basically a very similar move that I've seen the ATF take against, different variations of firearms, where they leave a little bit of muddy water, a little bit of arbitrary comments on what is not acceptable and what is acceptable to sell to Americans. And here is the recent move. The SEC is actually going after Coinbase for operating as an unregistered securities exchange, broker, and clearing agency. This lawsuit is still up in the air. This is a very hotly contested lawsuit. Coinbase is like a frenemy to me because I see them fighting back against the SEC, the SEC is blanket just trying to stop our access to this new digital product at large. A lot of different new projects that are coming out. Anything that can be controlled, the SEC is targeting if it has a main focal point. That's the beauty of Bitcoin, is it doesn't have that, right? It has no center, CEO or anything that you can go after. So the SEC has already admitted Bitcoin's the commodity. We can't catch it. It's a cat in an open prairie. It's out there. But everything that's new, all these new different innovative products, those are securities, is what the claim is right now. It's it's one of the most, it's really hard to see happening simultaneously to while all this is happening, we are trying to be in crypto to help feed our families with a more effective system than what fiat currency is providing. My buying power, I have 4 kids, beautiful wife, and I have all kinds of stuff that I need to pay for. I'm just a regular guy that honestly, I wouldn't be able to do it if I wasn't involved in crypto. Like, over the past few years, I was forced out of a company that I helped build from the ground up over the jab, and it just all these different levels of controls and areas that life at large has pushed me towards has basically made me become a self-custody maxi. That's where the self-custody, the cold hardware wallets are the most important.
They're making you more resilient.
Well, yes. I mean, it's making
you've created another sort of immune system.
100%. 100%. I mean, and it's the same thing. You wake up, you're ready to fight it every day, and I feel the blood coursing through my veins because of it. Right now is a very interesting time in crypto as well. Retail interest or understanding of what crypto is plummeting off of a cliff right now. Like, if you go to Google searches, who cares about Bitcoin in the day-to-day person realm is absolutely plummeting, while searches for Taylor Swift and all these other huge distraction mechanisms are going
Information
through the
war.
roof. It's an information war, and people are asleep. They don't know about this 20-headed hydra that is walking up on us in the background. They can't feel the ground rumbling beneath them because there is so much distraction going on right now. It's a very, very important time, I feel like, for people to understand that, you don't have to be stuck within these mid-sized regional banks that are about to collapse again, just as they did last year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things on the underscope that are happening. Like, another thing our channel's been covering is, obviously the Federal Reserve and the interest rates. That plays into the whole goal of, getting in, owning your own value on your hard wallet, and then using that value to purchase homes. That is in essence my whole focus and goal. I've done it before. I continue plan to do it again in this next cycle, because I see land as the most important thing to grab for my kids, right? And to outpace the chaos of inflation and all this stuff, I know no other way than to lean into financial danger to make it out on the other side. But in essence, I really feel like this moment in time, self-custody in your story screams the importance for that. This is the whole reason why Bitcoin, the true ethos of Bitcoin, was created, to have control of your own finances, not be able to be muted out by any, new elected leader of whatever country that you live in. These
or even a new CEO.
100%.
Right? Because when it comes to fascism, every big CEO is a little,
yes,
a little control center.
Absolutely. And leaving our future and our, ability to feed our families up to those whims is extremely dangerous. Not on top
up to
of
Yuval Harari.
right.
I mean, seriously.
Yes.
It's the creep land. You know what I mean? By the way, about 4 minutes walk away from where I'm sitting right now is a little Sapiens Park, you might call it. It's got these little signs up, it's referencing Sapiens, the book written by the creep Yuval Harari.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, he is.
So I'm in the midst of all those NGOs right here. I'm at the City of Knowledge. They call it the City of Knowledge.
Wow.
And it's the old Fort Clayton. It's the old U.S. Army South headquarters that was guarding this canal and the Miraflores locks, which are right over here, and the Pan American Highway Bridge, which is right over there, right?
Right.
And so I can see them both out the window. And so they've literally taken over this old U.S. Army South headquarters as the NGO headquarters. And there's a little, I call it Sapiens Park, because it's all the only little monuments in there are little things that, like QR codes, and they're the little propaganda about Sapiens.
Really? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That is insane. Michael,
I'm in Creepville. When I just went to get a coffee before we came on, I got my coffee. There was actually a UNHCR girl from United States down there ordering a coffee as well.
Really?
So, yeah. Because this is all, the UNHCR headquarters is like 2 minutes walk from here. The IOM, which is the main engine of the invasion, is about 5 or 6 minutes walk away. The IOM is the main engine of the invasion. It's funny, a lot of people think that they know who's doing this and what's going on, and I'll ask them about IOM. They're like, what's that? And I'm like, okay, that's like asking me who's Germany in like 1945 when the war's over, right? I never heard of Germany. And it's like, I never heard of Japan. It's like, IOM is the main engine of the invasion, right? Their theater headquarters, you might call it, is right down the road. Their main headquarters is in Switzerland.
Yeah.
I literally can walk to it in about 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. They fly their flag over City of Knowledge, right?
Do they really?
That's the main engine of the invasion. UN, and they are they're under UN, the United Nations, right?
Of course.
So this girl that was just getting coffee, pretty American girl, but she spoke English. She was rapping in Spanish to order coffee, and I figured she's probably one of the NGOs, and so we talked for a little bit. That's why I was about 5 minutes late. But the bottom line is that this is the nest of more than 6 of these NGOs and IGOs, intergovernmental organizations. Intergovernmental organizations are like NGOs, but they work between governments, right?
Yes.
The NGOs are, of course, non-governmental organizations. And then there's nonprofits here, but HIAS is one of them, Catholic Charities. These are all the engines of the invasion. I'm in their headquarters. So they know I'm here because I'm all over the Canadian. I'm not Canadian, well, Canadian too, but all over, Panamanian news and and so they see me walking around. I can see people recognize me at times. Nothing's happened to me here.
Right.
But this is the belly of the beast, and they are working to take over Panama as well. This is all part of the same war. All these things I'm describing, like you're fighting on what it's the same war, but you're fighting on a different front.
Right.
Eastern Front, Western Front, Space Command. You're on Financial Command front. You know what I mean? But it is definitely the same war. That the weaponized migration is a kill shot in this war, as are the control mechanisms on the money. That's another kill shot, right?
Yep.
There are numerous kill shots here. One of them is the weaponized migration. Another is energy, of course, and financial control, right? Control over these routes. There's a reason I'm sitting in front of the Panama Canal.
Yes.
There's a reason why all their headquarters are right here at the old U.S. Army South headquarters, right? They have this. Where I'm sitting right now is one of the most vital pieces of terrain on planet Earth. I mean, there's almost nowhere on Earth that's more important to the current global situation and economy than the Panama Canal.
100% agree with that.
Suez Canal and the Suez Canal and Panama Canal. I mean, these are huge, right? There's a lot of important choke points out there, like Rotterdam and Straits of Hormuz and Malacca. There's a lot, but this one right here is one of the literally up there on the top. 1% of the. I mean, it's like in the top 5, right?
Yep.
And they have got their headquarters right here. All the same people that are taking over financial controls.
Yep. And, the reasons that they're, we see Elizabeth Warren or people that are, supposed leaders in the United States justifying going after our access to cryptos. They're trying to say that it's what the terrorists are using, right?
They are the terrorists.
I know. And, we did see on CNBC Squawk Box yesterday a little bit of pushback against that. It's refreshing to see mainstream pundits willing to push back because the amount of use in what is illicit finance is exponentially higher for traditional fiat. It's untraceable. It has all those aspects. Bitcoin is traceable. The wallets are traceable. They're transparent. There's not, the whole ethos of Bitcoin is to have a transparent financial monetary system, but we see the exact opposite conversation being used against it from our regulators because the lack of education about what this technology is. And people, it just kind of goes over people's heads. They're asleep. They're sitting there fighting to keep the food coming to the table. They're distracted.
How traceable is Bitcoin?
It's very traceable. You have every single wallet, every single transaction is openly, visible on the Bitcoin blockchain. So you can see and you can route down to specific wallets from, you could have 10,000 different transactions happening with 10,000 different wallets. It all can be tracked down to wherever its landing point is. But the thing about it is you can't go get it, right? You can't solve the block. You can't break the system to stop that transaction from happening, which is the power of it. Now I'm fighting the concerns that we see BlackRock coming in hot and heavy after this thing. BlackRock has moved in and scooped up about 100,000 Bitcoin within the last 30 days, which is a monumental amount of the supply given the amount of time. Just for context, one of the largest holders on the planet, MicroStrategy, is up to 190,000. The U.S. government at a point was reported to have around 190,000 as well, but they've been selling off their Bitcoin. I think they're down to somewhere around 20 to 30,000.
Why did the U.S. government buy? Why are they in the investment business?
So it was from Silk Road. They had seized it from Silk Road. From somebody. Yep. So it's been held, seized, and there's a lot of seized Bitcoin that the U.S. government is still sitting on. But now we see this dark character slipping into the background, BlackRock, that is, yes, it's great for money over the course of the next bull market, but I think the long-term aspect of crypto needs to be focused on right now because we do have the potential of being captured by TradFi and this, financial traditional finance, and here in crypto, the whole concern why we look for alternatives to fiat is because visually or metaphorically, it looks like a financial centipede. It feels like one basket of loans built onto another basket of loans, creating just this pile of derivatives, house of cards that eventually comes down and collapses on you. And that's something that we're trying our darndest to avoid here in crypto, but now we're fighting that people are kind of embracing this new TradFi beast as a way to, pump their bags, make a bunch of money. Sure, in the short term, yeah, but the long-term goal of this is decentralized finance, decentralized communication, encrypted communications. That's encrypted communications is a big reason why I got into crypto in the first place. There was something that happened to Duncan Socrates Lemp. He was a developer a few years ago that was, a no-knock raid, a very suspect way of handling his raid from the powers that be at the time. And Duncan Socrates Lemp, in his development of encrypted code communications for free Americans to discuss between each other the existing surroundings. I mean, Tyranny Actual was right around the corner when this happened. It was right at the height of flu season kicking off, and all of those different peaceful protests that we saw going on. It was right at we were right there at the edge. And so encrypted communication, the freedom of speech being protected by code, is how I found crypto. The money is, great as a side thing, but I really am trying to push this forward because this is we have where do we live on now? Where do we purchase things on? It's a digital sphere. We need a digital bill of rights. We need digital protections. Those aren't in place right now. It's all controlled by these corporations. And like you said, if you get a new CEO that bends the knee to Yuval and Klaus, and they will. We see many of them pandering at Davos every year for it and trying to get in and get their little spot at the table to run the CBDCs and the expiration dates on your money so they can keep the velocity of economy moving. Those are just systems that I really despise. I really fight back against those.
When people steal is when things are moving. Right. I mean, 100%. Of course, they want the velocity. They want the as high as they can get it.
Right.
And the volume and velocity high means you can siphon up a lot, and it just goes into the ether.
That's the sad existence of the credit system that we're built on. That's why we see, in my opinion, the deficit, the overall debt levels going to 35 trillion. I think they're going to be at $50 trillion in the next decade. I think that over the next decade, they're going to print harder than they've ever printed before. Inflation, it's been bad over the past 3 or 4 years, but in my opinion, buckle up for 2026. It's going to get deadly. So
there's so many fronts to this war, and it's not as if we are helpless, because if there was nothing we could do, you wouldn't be seeing my face, right? I would be gone.
Right.
I travel the world quite a lot, into almost 100 countries. I spend most of my time downrange, right? More than half of my life, much more. And so but I'm fighting. I'm fighting because we do have a chance, and it's a significant chance to reverse the energy.
Yes.
But we have to fight. And there's so many fronts to this, as you know. For instance, I'm sorry, I keep having to look at the screen. I have people coming into Panama.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm watching making sure everything's okay with them, because I'm getting teams linked up with teams. But the bottom line is like one guy I've been hitting on hard for the last few weeks is Joe Rogan. I know he's very popular with a lot of people. And people are like, why are you hitting on Joe Rogan? The people who have read my work for years know on the occasions that not rare occasions, but let's say occasional occasions that I actually go after somebody. You have to actually see me doing it in the way that I'm doing it. I got my teeth in them, and I usually don't release. I've never have so far, actually.
Yeah.
Like I went after 2 generals in Afghanistan simultaneously, Generals Menard and McChrystal. And you saw General McChrystal was fired, and that was blamed on a Rolling Stone article and blah, blah, blah. It was actually me that set the table and got everything into place. And you can find that if you looked around enough who actually, and another one was General Daniel Menard, who was a Canadian general, and he ended up being reduced in rank to colonel, kicked out of the Canadian Army. Again, bang, I did it. I did them simultaneously, right?
Wow.
And the thing is why? Why did I do it? There were specific reasons I won't go into, because it's history now. It was the Afghan war, and they were losing the war. Why am I going after Joe Rogan? I'll tell you. Because people are like, why are you going after Joe Rogan? Is it because he's the biggest guy on the block and blah, blah, blah? I'm like, actually, partly, yeah. But I'll tell you more. Let me have a sip of this coffee. There's more. I study Chinese information war. I've written 3 books on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're only in Japanese, unfortunately, because I've been trying to wake up the Japanese for years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I can talk your ear off about the Chinese war, about the Chinese that are coming through the Darien Gap right now, clearly weaponized, and most of them are military age males, right?
Right.
And so I'm watching them across the United States growing marijuana in huge amounts in like Maine, Oklahoma, Oregon, California, coast to coast. They're growing a lot of marijuana. We know the Chinese smuggle a lot of fentanyl. We know that a lot of chemicals make it into that marijuana. We know that thousands of Americans die every month from fentanyl directly.
Yes.
And in chemical warfare, this is a form of, what is this? Biological warfare or chemical warfare or information warfare? It's all 3, right?
Right.
When you've got people like, hey, when I was literally downstairs getting a coffee, there was CNN on, and they were talking about the virtues of marijuana. This is just minutes before you and I went on, right?
Mm.
And so literally, and it's on CNN. It's at the bar. I don't drink, so I can safely go to bar, but it's a hotel bar restaurant, right? So they got all the alcohol there and CNN playing. It's a joke. I tell people, look how many bars that you see have CNN playing.
Yeah,
that's a perfect brainwashing station.
Yep.
I study information war.
At airports, it's almost like every public place you go.
Just think about a bar in CNN.
Yeah.
That's like right out of Rape of the Mind. That's a book from 1956.
If you want to drink yourself to sleep.
That's right out of 1984, Soma or whatever. And so, I mean, but what I'm getting to is, so you have the Chinese who are funding part of their war with drugs and killing us. I wrote a series of dispatches on this from Afghanistan in 2006 called The Perfect Evil. Mm-hmm. It's a series of dispatches about the opium, and they've turned out to be extremely accurate. Actually, I'm very proud of my Iraq and Afghanistan work and my war work in general beyond those wars. Just pick any random stuff that I wrote 10, 15 years ago. Just throw a dart, pick it out, read it now, and tell me how it played out. I'm Babe Ruth, baby. I'm up there. And why? Because I don't care whose feelings I hurt, right? I don't care if Joe Rogan's feelings are hurt. I don't care if I never get invited on his show. It does not matter. I'm a warrior. I'm American, right? Here's the bottom line. Joe Rogan gets on his show, biggest podcaster in America, apparently, maybe the world. I have no idea. But the bottom line is he gets on there drunk. He gets on there smoking dope. And he's pushing dope. Who's growing a lot of this dope? Our enemies. What are they putting in the dope? You're getting our young people to smoke dope while we're in a state of war. I'm out in the Darien Gap on the Colombian side, on the Panamanian side. I'm watching these aliens come through. These are high testosterone young men. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's out there. Whoa, the border's open. Whoa, I didn't expect that. But why would they do it? He just had Brett Weinstein on. Brett did a great job. I just took Brett to the Darien Gap. We were just on this canal together, actually, with Dr. Chris Martinson.
Wow.
And I told him I'm going after Joe Rogan. He likes Joe. I don't. And I don't have anything personally against Joe. He could just be stupid. I don't think that he is. He could be stupid, or as Bannon wrote me a message this morning. He's a moron. And I said, well, he could be a moron, or he could be a moron, or he could be a traitor and a moron. I don't know which, but he is one or the other, right? Because he is pushing this dope into millions of young people's minds, which then goes into their lungs. We got these high testosterone men going right across that bridge every day up to the United States, right? They are here for war. They are here this is a weaponized migration. You are in a state of war. You're fighting it on the financial side. I'm fighting it on the information side. And obviously fighting Coinbase is like great. I get to fight on this front too.
Yes.
I mean, normally I fight on different fronts, but they've opened up another front for me, and it's a front that I'm very good at, and I've left a trail of bodies behind me on this, like Menard, General Menard, Joe McChrystal, Shock Magazine, whom I bankrupted, right? And a long list of people I have beat using information war. I did it just what we're doing now. We just tell the truth. We never crossed the line of defamation or any of that stuff. That Joe Rogan is pushing dope is a done deal. That China is growing dope in the United States and selling fentanyl and getting it across our streets is a done deal.
That is such a big deal.
who do you work for, Joe? Who do
Right.
you work for, Joe Rogan? I know you're going to see this because about half of my friends seem to know you personally, right?
Yeah.
It's like, Alex Jones told me, I was on his show recently, and Alex is like, you should go on Joe's show. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started launching into Joe. Alex is probably like, well, I shouldn't have brought up Joe. But Alex is a stud. He can.
He
He's
is.
if he was in the military, he would have been some sort of special operations commander or something.
He was I met him down in Austin. I shook his hand. It was like shaking a baseball mitt.
He's a force of nature, man.
He is.
You go into a studio. I like him a lot better in person. In person, he's a straight up man. You know what I mean?
Yes, he is.
And he just never stops fighting.
Yeah, he's an animal.
We're like on break. He's like, hold on, Michael. Hold on, I'm gonna message Tucker right now. Tucker's from Russia. Tucker messages back. He's literally in Russia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he is, and then Tucker goes on live talking about it like an hour later or something.
Right.
It's just like he's just got a command center going there. And I know he's great friends with Joe Rogan, and people have been putting that in my comments recently. Like, well, if you're going after Joe, you got to go after Alex. And I'm like, no, I don't. Who sets the rules that I have to do that? Right. And the bottom line is I'm going after Joe. He's either going to stop smoking dope or I'm going to keep putting teeth into him. Right.
I mean,
listen, I reach millions of people too, Joe. I reach millions of. You're bigger, but I know how to use an axe.
Yeah.
Right. And I will chop you down. And you will either stop smoking dope and stop acting like a moron in front of millions of young people, or you're going to get chopped down. It'll take time, but it will happen. The reason that Elon Musk is at the border now, notice how Elon Musk is, you know why he's at the border?
Yeah.
Because Ann Vandersteel, who just messaged me, she's on the airplane. She's getting on the airplane right now. She's coming to Panama. Ann Vandersteel and I started Operation Burning Edge. And what did we do? First mission. We went to Colony Ridge in Texas. We brought Daily Wire. We brought different people. Todd Bensman, of course. He's the one that really got a fight going at Colony Ridge. Is a colonia for 200,000 mostly illegal aliens who are coming in. Or actually, though, I should back off from that so I don't get nailed in a defamation lawsuit. A lot of illegal aliens are there. So let's put it that way, right? So strike that and replace it with a lot of illegal aliens are there, right?
I will.
And there's a lot of crime there. Bottom line, we took a sheriff up, we took 2 congressmen up, we took the Latrell Seal guy, who's another just meat puppet. We took Congressman Babin up. I'm not impressed with all the SEAL shit, by the way. So I mean, Latrell comes up, or here he is, but he's not doing anything. It's right. I'll fight you just like I'll fight freaking Joe Rogan. And so the bottom line is, we got that fight going. Now there's all these lawsuits at Colony Ridge. You see the governor's gotten involved, the governor of Texas. That's because what we did was we went over there. We got a helicopter. We took all these people up, many different rides. Dave Cannon gave us his helicopter thing and flew it for us. Thank you, sir. And then many times, actually, on different dates. And then we lifted and shifted, Ann Vandersteel and I, in Operation Burning Edge, along with Pete Chambers, we moved to SpaceX, which was down the road.
Yeah.
And with the express intent, we will get Elon Musk interested in this, whether he knows it's us or not. We never reached out to SpaceX. I love SpaceX stuff, by the way. I love the whole rocketry. I mean, I grew up watching, rockets. I'm from Florida, man. I'm totally like, we should be on Mars by now,
Right.
I'm totally not against SpaceX. I'm totally for it. And so, but the bottom line is I'm all about like space exploration. But the bottom line is SpaceX in Texas is on the border of Mexico.
Yes.
It's right. You can literally see the launch complex from Mexico. You can see Starship on the launch pad, right? With the lights flashing and everything, right? And so it's actually, Mexico is dangerously close to the launch pad.
Wow.
And so we spent 2 or 3 weeks just, they're coming into SpaceX, which they are. Drugs are being smuggled onto SpaceX property, which they are. And the Border Patrol down there at nighttime, they were telling us about it. We were watching it. We had a truck down there with a giant thermal camera, that goes up 40 feet, I think it was.
Yeah.
And you can tell the difference between a male or a female, like half a mile away. If you've got any weapons, we can see it, right? They're smuggling stuff like crazy. And so we just focused on that, with the express intent on we weren't saying it publicly. We're saying it among ourselves. We're going to get Elon to start paying attention to the border. And now he's on it almost every day. Now, again, I never asked to talk with him, and we never even emailed to SpaceX. We just did the magic that we do. We know how to fight information wars, right? Now you see Darien is blowing up all over the planet, basically, right? We did it, right?
Yep.
We've been we brought congressmen down. We brought intelligence people down. We brought Brett Weinstein. We just brought down. We brought down Chris Martenson, Dr. Chris, Peak Prosperity. Masako Ganaha from Japan. She's here again for her about 10th time. So the reason that this is suddenly huge news is because we know what we're doing. And Coinbase, you're about to feel that, right?
Right.
And Joe Rogan, you will feel it, right? You've had a lot of people go after you, but you've not had people go after you that know how to chop down your tree, right?
Yep.
And you will not continue to smoke dope and get drunk on your show in front of millions of young people without hearing a chopping sound every time you do it, right?
Yep.
And because we will be telling millions of people, and it will have an effect. And likewise with Coinbase, as long as you keep doing this to me and other people, we'll keep talking about it. And it's perfectly not defamatory, as long as it's the truth, as long as it's not malicious. It's just, this is what's happening and it's wrong, and we're going to keep telling the story. It has a huge effect.
Yes.
And we will continue to do this on different battles. Often we don't say what those battles are, but I see people in the news daily giving talking points that we supply, my team, right? And we have our own. In other words, we take people to places like Darien, and we take them to Netherlands. I took Jordan Peterson to Netherlands and that sort of thing. And we show them what's going on different fronts, right? And we reach it through those mechanisms. It's very effective. And with what you're doing on the financial side, if you then, like, I'm broadening out the financial side now because they attacked me, and now you and I are talking. Now you can broaden out to the information. You're already on it. You're on a podcast right now. You're already doing that. But you can make that even bigger by using the techniques and tactics I was just talking about. You can just blow this up. To the point where you become a major voice and a major force.
It's the power of the people, and people are hungry for freedom, and you are one of
the ripped off and fooled.
I know, like, people have had enough, and that yearning for freedom is strong. It's real right now. You have so much you unpack there. I mean, what comes to mind is the psyop that is TikTok, that's pushed from China onto American youth right now. Seeing them just transfixed on these super fast dopamine hits, swiping through, getting that idiotic dopamine hit about some ridiculous dance. Meanwhile, they have a completely different algorithm for Chinese children, right? They're not being shown, Miley Cyrus bouncing around on a ball or whatever it is that's, mindless garbage that's trending at the time being. But on top of that, the fentanyl crisis going on in the United States right now. My family are in crime scene investigations, coroner work, autopsy work.
What are they saying about this?
It is absolutely off the chain. What is happening?
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Okay, fentanyl, but and then all the other drugs. Like, which is the worst right now? Is it
fentanyl. Fentanyl. Yeah.
Fentanyl. And I read a book on that before I came back to the United States 3 years ago.
Yeah.
God, what's going on with this fentanyl?
And it came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, they had to show up to work in hazmat suits, right? Every crime scene, you have to show up in a hazmat suit. Officers were getting sick from accidental exposure to hyperpotent fentanyl. It only takes a very small amount of fentanyl to kill you, in a concentrated dose. So, seeing this concern be employed for my family members as they're out there going to crime scenes, they're doing investigations on some people connected to my family that are also in SWAT, detective work. It is across the board. Fentanyl is this silent demon that is just ripping away, especially the livelihood within city centers. We see the San Francisco zombie streets now. It's been a slow build, but I think that the fentanyl takeover is playing out in real time. I think people have yet to really acknowledge the true level of destruction that the fentanyl is having on our day-to-day lives. Because it's
and then we got druggies like Joe Rogan going, "Whoa, the borders are wide open."
Right.
Why would they? And you're just realizing this. In fact, he was just on with Brett. Brett Weinstein's doing a great job.
Yeah.
He's really like his Tucker Carlson interview. It must have at least 12 million views.
Yes.
By the way, I'm supposed to go on Tucker in about 2 weeks now or something like that.
Are you nice?
And, but the bottom line is why is anybody pushing drugs now? Why am I just downstairs getting a coffee and CNN's pushing?
Right.
Now and Joe Rogan, you won't get away with it without cost, right? Mm-hmm. Because I will rally up an army and they will start talking about you, and it will hurt your base, because this is unacceptable, right? Mm-hmm. People are like, don't you want? He's got the biggest show, and I don't care. I'm an American. I'm not a Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm not.
Yeah, we need to harden our people. We need to harden our people for what's coming. It can't be sitting there.
To the dopers. You know what I mean? You're a doper. It's like, it's like, we have to harden our, because the reason that this is even happening, that we have no real borders. Mm-hmm. It's not a border crisis, by the way. Everybody keeps saying border crisis. What crisis? This is a war. We're way beyond mere crisis. Yeah, we have been invaded, right? Yeah, we have already crossed the Rubicon. I was just over in Ireland with Masako Ganaha last year or so. They already have a critical mass of high testosterone alien males there who they could take Ireland now. You can't just look at the numbers of Irish versus aliens who have come in. Mm-hmm. You have to look at the young males versus young males, right? Yep. And in that regard, hey man, I mean, and we got high testosterone young males in there versus Irish, many of whom, but the ones who have come to Ireland, that's already a filter, right? Yeah. I mean, like the ones I see coming through Darien Gap, these are studly men, generally speaking, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they can fight, especially as a group. Mm-hmm. And likewise, I see this with a lot of the aliens that are going in Europe. I'm often in Europe as well, looking at this. Yeah. You're getting a fighting force. It's a clear fighting force. This is a clear weaponized migration. You're clearly in a war, and you're fighting part of it. Two parts. You're fighting information, and you're fighting the financial side. Yeah. And then there's this weaponized migration, which I'm more focused on, in the drugs and information as well. And so, what's next with Ireland? They could literally collapse. And now you've got a huge foothold right there. I mean, I was just over in Luxembourg about a year and a half ago or so. Spent almost 2 weeks there. I'd say more than 10 days. Okay. And it's almost 50% aliens now. 50. Luxembourg used to be the jewel of Europe. When I was in the army and I went there, I was like, wow, this is a really nice country. Oh my gosh. The crown. I mean, people used to you could let your children play out at midnight on the streets. It wouldn't have mattered, when I was in the army and I went there training, but we just went there training. I wasn't stationed there, but the bottom line is I got to see it, and it was a very impressive country. And now it's straight up dangerous, even in the middle of the daytime. That is so disappointing. Luxembourg City, right? That's where my lineage is from. Wiederhaus, Weidert, Drew Weidert. I have a large contingent of Wieder, out in Luxembourg. When did your family leave? It was about 1800. Large migration happened up to Fargo, North Dakota. So a bunch of whiters made it in. There's not many. You don't meet many Luxembourgers. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty like Liechtensteiners. I mean, every time I meet a Luxembourger or a Liechtensteiner, I'm telling people about it for weeks. You're not gonna believe it. I met somebody from Luxembourg. Interestingly, even when I was there with Masako, we must have asked. I mean, we were constantly, everybody we talked. Are you from Luxembourg? Are you from Luxembourg? It was on about maybe the 10th day when one guy was like, yeah, I'm from Luxembourg. And a lot of people say they're from Luxembourg, but they're actually from Portugal, actually. And a lot of them are from Syria and other places. They're like, obviously, right? And but one guy finally said, yeah, he's from Luxembourg. And it was on about the 10th. So we had asked dozens and dozens of people. And we were starting to ask more likely, like people that look like they might be Luxembourgers, like white people, basically. And finally he goes, yeah, I'm from Luxembourg. There's not many of us. And I said, yeah, because we've been asking people every day. I said, are you really from Luxembourg? You know what I mean? And he said, yes, my family's from Luxembourg. I said, wow. It is really weird that we've been here this long, and you're the first one that's apparently has an authenticate. Yeah, I got a full shield. Stamp.
Full Shield,
Yeah.
Weeder family. So yeah,
Have you been back there?
I'm actually in communication with Jean-Pierre. He's overseeing the Wieder House farm. It's a very large farm in Luxembourg, which is another huge deal. I mean, the land is so, contested for in Luxembourg, not a huge area. And the farm is a pretty large farm. I believe it's at least a few hundred acres, but a beautiful place. I plan on trying to get my
acres in Luxembourg.
Yeah.
That's huge money.
I know.
Man.
So I really, really want to get my family out there, but I'm kind of concerned from what you're saying about it. That is, I really want, my wife would love to see the rest of the world. And, really right now, I do have just an insane concern for what's obviously happening in France, what's happening in Ireland, what's happening in all these different locations we want to travel to. Now that they've taken the jab mandates out, I guess I can get on an airplane again, right?
Where you might want to go is El Salvador.
I know. The Bitcoin.
Because you got several things colliding there.
Yeah.
And if you go to El Salvador, tell me it's cheap. I was just up there and I was there doing research, but I liked it. I've been telling Americans just go on vacation and take a look.
I'm going to go check it out. I'm going to take your advice on that.
You probably know one of the most dangerous countries in the world to hey, if I'm telling you to go to vacation, I mean, and I travel the world quite a lot, you know what I mean? That's just like
100%. And things like that, the finances and like people not being, basically starved out through inflation and moving to a Bitcoin standard, I feel like is playing a role in why the society at large is better behaved. I think the bad behavior at large comes from hungry families, hungry people that can't afford to feed themselves. And so you get in this desperate, animal-like mindset, I feel like. And
I would be careful with that. There are, again, as somebody who spends most of my time downrange, different cultures have different firmware, right?
Yeah.
And some are just more violent. You know what I mean? Some are more predatory. Some are this or that, right? And so there's a lot of nuance there, right?
Yeah.
And it seems to be more of a cultural firmware based than, like for instance, if you take a bunch of people from these countries, because they're like, they don't have a lot of resources, but a lot of them actually do, right? Like take Venezuela as an example. Venezuela is a very resource rich country. It should dwarf Switzerland on wealth, right? But the difference is Switzerland is filled with Swiss people, and Japan is filled with Japanese people. Japan is actually low on resources. Japan is always hurting on food and energy. I go to Japan. I've written, again, 3 books on information war only for Japanese audiences. I work with Japanese constantly, right, on various things, war-related things. But Japan is very starved for resources. That's how we got them into World War II. We cut off their tin and their oil. We cut off their rubber. We cut off different things. And then they ended up, and long story short, they ended up attacking us. And Americans like, they sneaked attacked us. And like, yeah, okay, right. Whatever. That's not really what happened, but okay. I'm an American. I totally bleed red, white, and blue, but I'm also into as much truth as I can find, and we set them up, bottom line, and we cut them off and we strangled them. Japan is easy to strangle because they don't have food security now. They've had many famines in their history, by the way, like at least 500. We think that, like Masako Ganaha, a famous Japanese journalist, she and I went to Japan studying this famine, and she went through old archives and she found reference to, I think, 503 in about 1,500 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not like Japan is in a famine. It's like some island here or some part here. And, it's not like it's systemic. But the bottom line is Ireland. I mean, there's many islands. I don't know of any island around the world that is not vulnerable to famine. I haven't seen one. Right. I mean, there's probably one out there somewhere, but I mean, especially in this modern world with the higher populations, right? Anyway, I'm sorry, I could go on for hours.
No, I mean, this is a great conversation, man. I mean, we got a lot to talk about here, and I love your insight, your historical context on, just what we're seeing right now. It's extremely helpful, and I think your story about Coinbase locking you out with no real reason given. This is a story that needs to be paid attention to very closely. So I mean, I appreciate you cutting the time. I know you're doing a lot of things. You probably got 200 decisions to make for the rest of the day. Ian, we're already halfway through it, but Michael, it's an absolute pleasure having you join us. I really hope that you join us again so we can continue this conversation, continue the fight, get this message out to our community, get Joe Rogan tagged 6,000 times. We're going to tag everyone involved in what we're talking about right now, because this information needs to come to light.
Yeah, and you know what? Dope is not cool. It's not cool at all, right?
Especially for the time frame we're in right now. It's
all these clowns are like, no, I'm expanding my horizons. I'm like, you're expanding your horizons, but you don't even know we're being invaded. You're a clown, right?
You got to sharpen.
Time for clowns, right? You got to man up, right? Now's the time for men. We're facing men who will chop your head off and kick it down the road like a soccer ball. You know, I'm serious. I'm deadly serious. I'm sorry I talk like a war correspondent because I do a lot of war, right? And I'm used to seeing men kill men, right? On a regular basis. And so, I mean, it's coming. It is clearly coming. And you're not going to just hide out of this. You're not going to be able to just defend yourself. You're going to have to stop it, right? Because the invasion continues. The whole "don't mess with Texas" thing. They're messing with Texas. And the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, is a member of World Economic Forum.
I know.
Right?
I know.
So everybody's always saying, "Oh, look at Greg Abbott's doing something this time," and I'm like, "Listen, man, is he a member of the World Economic Forum or not?" Yes, he is. Okay, so and it's election
season.
Yeah, if somebody's wearing, let's say, a Nazi uniform, do you think they're going to suddenly fight for the Allies?
Right.
No. Right. It's like, but did you read the new bill? I'm like, listen, I've been doing this for years all around the world, and I know how to cut through the shit. I'm not going to spend 5 days reading something I know they're not going to abide by anyway. The bottom line is the border will stay open as long as he's the governor of Texas. That border will stay open. The so-called battle at Eagle Pass or whatever. I've been to like a month at Eagle Pass, and Piedras Negras on the other side as well. I was having a dinner here in Panama about a month ago, and then I went to Texas. Now I'm back in Panama, and they were talking about Eagle Pass, Texas, at the dinner table. It was a long dinner table, and I said, listen, Eagle Pass is here. Give me that pepper shaker. Pulled out a piece of pepper. That's Eagle Pass. I put it on the table. I said, this table is the border. Eagle Pass is that piece of pepper, right? You're not going to block the border at Eagle Pass. It is absolutely kayfabe. It's nothing. It's like, blocking the Mississippi River, not even with a box of Legos, but with one Lego. You know what I mean? I was talking with this lawmaker up in, I think, Idaho the other night. He called up. And he's like, we need to send a whole battalion down to Texas. I'm like, a battalion? Are you joking? What's a battalion going to do? That's a Lego block. You know what I mean? It's and besides, it doesn't matter how many you send down if the intent is not to close the border.
Yes.
Governor Abbott could close that border by doing vehicle inspections. People often say, I have people in Panama say, we can't close the Darien Gap. And I'm like, bullshit. You closed it during the pandemic. You closed it. The Darien Gap was locked tight. Yes. Nobody got through that thing for about a year, right? Yep. And now you're like, oh, we can't close it. It's impossible.
So hard.
Except when you want to. And then it's like quite easy. I
know. It's an incredible time to be alive, Michael. I commend you and your work, man. You're putting the boots to the ground. This world needs 10,000 of you, 20,000. We need millions of people with this same mindset. We need to help share this information out to the people that are asleep to this right now, because you cannot be lulled into this state of it's okay, I'll just coexist, and use whatever new dope that they legalize, as they continue to do so. It's an important time frame. And fighting for our financial sovereignty, this battle that you're entrenched in with Coinbase right now, I really hope you stay up to date with us and let us know, as this transpires, what is happening next. And we will be calling out, we will be tagging everyone that we know in the crypto community. We are very connected in that community. I have a strong base here in the blockchain basement that'll help get your message heard, because control of our money is just one big piece in the overall fight against this tyranny actual, which we see. It's it's forming right in front of our eyes. We need to do everything we can to fight back right now. Thank
you for having me on. And
Absolutely.
maybe I'll see you in El Salvador or something.
Yes, man. Maybe I'll be coming down there, and let me know. I'll be paying attention to your interview with Tucker Carlson as well. That's really exciting.
Oh, good. And
Absolutely.
dopers are not cool, and neither is Joe Rogan.
All right. Take care.